Louis, have your man go with Mr. Laszlo and take care of his luggage.
Certainly, Rick. Anything you say. Find Mr. Laszlo's luggage and put it on the plane.
Yes, sir. This way, please.
If you don't mind, you fill in the names. That'll make it even more official.
You think of everything, don't you?
All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into a scene I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with.
Yeah.
The farewell scene from Casablanca.
Ah, Casablanca.
One of the most iconic films
absolutely.
ever made.
One of the best.
And the farewell scene in particular, it's just, it's always ranked so high. And
right.
Like best scenes in cinematic history and all that. And
top 10 for sure, at least.
so we thought we'd take a closer look and see why it's so powerful. Like how does it...
And the names are Mr. and Mrs. Victor Laszlo.
But why my name, Richard?
Because you're getting on that plane.
I don't understand. What about you?
I'm staying here with him till the plane gets safely away.
No, Richard, no. What has happened to you? Last night
Last night we said a great many things. You said I was to do the thinking for both of us. Well, I've done a lot of it since then. It all adds up to one thing. You're getting on that plane with Victor where you belong.
But, Richard, no,
Now, you've got to listen to me. You have any idea what you'd have to look forward to if you stayed here? 9 chances out of 10, we'd both wind up at a concentration camp. Isn't that true, Louis?
Does it achieve that?
Well, I think a good place to start is with the context. You know, the scene takes place at the height of World War II.
Oh, yeah.
You've got escape literally in the air with that airplane in the background.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
But Rick is trapped, right? He's trapped both by his feelings for Ilsa and the circumstances of the war.
Yeah, you're right that airplane, it's more than just a background detail, isn't it?
Right?
It's a pretty stark visual symbol of everything he's letting go.
Exactly. It's like this looming possibility.
I'm afraid Major Strasser would insist.
You're saying this only to make me go.
I'm saying it because it's true. Inside of us, we both know you belong with Victor. You're part of his work, the thing that keeps him going. If that plane leaves the ground and you're not with him, you'll regret it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but soon and for the rest of your life.
But what about us?
We'll always have Paris. We didn't have, we lost it until you came to Casablanca. We got it back last night.
Of freedom, but it's just out of reach.
Yeah.
And then you've got the lighting, which is really interesting in the scene.
Oh, yeah. How so?
Well, unlike the film's usually shadowy style, right? This scene is lit much brighter. It's really interesting because it puts the spotlight on their emotions.
Oh, I see.
Making the farewell feel even more momentous, you know?
Yeah, it's like the lighting is saying, this is the climax. Pay attention.
Exactly. It's guiding our focus.
Yeah.
When I said I would never leave you.
And you never will. But I've got a job to do, too. Where I'm going, you can't follow. What I've got to do, you can't be any part of. Ilsa, I'm no good at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of 3 little people don't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world. Someday you'll understand that. Now. He's looking at you, kid.
And then, of course, you have the close-up shots on Rick and Ilsa's
And you never will.
faces.
Oh, yeah.
I've got a job to do, too. Where I'm going, you can't follow. What I've got to do, you can't be any part of.
It just draws us right
Ilsa, I'm no
into
good
their
at being
emotions.
noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of 3 little
Exactly.
people don't amount
That's
to a
the
hill of
magic
beans
it.
in this crazy world.
Speaking of those intimate
Someday
moments,
you'll understand that.
dialogue.
Oh, yeah. You're just looking at you, kid.
Such a simple phrase, but packed with layers of meaning.
He's looking at you,
It
kid.
becomes a symbol of their whole relationship. doesn't it?
Everything is in order.
All except one thing. There's something you should know before you leave.
Mr. Blaine, I don't ask you to explain anything.
I'm going to anyway because it may make a difference to you later on. You said you knew about Ilsa and me,
Yes.
but you didn't know she was at my place last night when you were. She came there for the letters of transit. Isn't that true, Ilsa?
Yes.
Isn't it? Their past in Paris.
Yes.
You know, the unfulfilled dreams and then the love that even war can't extinguish.
Absolutely. And the delivery's so crucial, too.
Oh.
Bogart's performance. You know, it's so understated, but there's just this world of unspoken emotion in his eyes.
It's like we can feel the weight of everything he's not saying.
Exactly.
And then there's Ilsa.
Yeah.
I mean, she's torn between her love for Rick and her duty to Victor.
Absolutely a classic love triangle.
Yeah.
But played with such nuance and sensitivity.
Yeah. And what's interesting, too, is how...
She tried everything to get them and nothing worked. She did her best to convince me that she was still in love with me. That was all over long ago. For your sake, she pretended it wasn't, and I let her pretend.
I understand.
Here it is.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Welcome back to the fight. This time I know our side will win.
This scene really marks a turning point for Rick.
Oh, absolutely.
In his development as a character.
A pivotal point.
Yeah, he starts the film,
Yeah.
as this cynical, world-weary figure.
He's all about self-preservation.
Right. I stick my neck out for nobody. But here, he makes this selfless choice.
Yes.
Letting Ilsa go for her own good and for the greater cause.
It's a real transformation.
Yeah, and it's not...
Are you ready, Ilsa?
Yes, I'm ready. Bye, Rick. God bless you.
Gotta hurry, you'll miss that plane.
Not just stated, it's shown.
Exactly.
Through his actions.
It's the power of good storytelling.
Yeah.
Showing, not telling.
So we've got the wartime setting, the visuals, the dialogue, and Rick's arc all coming together in this one scene.
It's a masterpiece.
Yeah, it's no wonder it's considered one of the greats.
And it's not just about the technical stuff either. It's about these universal themes.
Well, yeah.
Love, loss, sacrifice. I mean, we may not be facing Nazis.
Right.
But we all understand what it means to let go of something precious.
Yeah, we've all had those, here's looking at you.
Well, I was right. You are a sentimentalist.
Stay where you are. I don't know what you're talking about.
What you just did for Laszlo. That fairy tale you invented to send Ilsa away with him. I know a little about women, my friend. She went, but she knew you were lying.
Anyway, thanks for helping me out.
I suppose you know this isn't going to be very pleasant for either of us, especially for you. I'll have to arrest you, of course.
As soon as the plane goes.
Kid moments, I think.
Absolutely, those bittersweet goodbyes.
Yeah.
And that's why it still resonates decades later, right? It just speaks to the human condition.
It transcends time and place.
Exact.
It's like a perfectly crafted emotional punch to the gut.
That we all feel.
Yeah. And what's amazing is that they do it all in just a few minutes of screen time.
It's really incredible.
It really shows you the power of film.
Yeah, the power of visual storytelling.
So we've talked about the emotion, the technical side,
yeah.
Themes, but what about the music?
Oh, the music.
How does the score contribute to all this?
Well, the music in this scene is a masterclass in subtlety. It doesn't overpower the dialogue, but it enhances the mood.
Okay.
It guides our emotional responses.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. So notice how as Rick and Ilsa are saying their goodbyes, the music swells with this bittersweet melody, reflecting their conflicting emotions, you know, the love and the loss.
I can almost hear it now. It's like the music is giving voice to the things they can't say.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then as Ilsa boards the plane and the camera lingers on Rick's face, the music shifts to a more somber tone, highlighting his solitude and sacrifice.
Wow. I never noticed that shift before.
It's subtle but powerful.
Yeah. It's like another layer of storytelling happening.
And that's the genius of Max Steiner's score. It works in perfect harmony with the visuals and dialogue.
So it's all working together to create this really immersive experience.
Yeah, unforgettable.
Okay, so we've got the dialogue, the lighting, the music, but what about the structure of the scene itself?
Oh, the structure.
How do they build the tension and keep us on the edge of our seats?
Well, it's incredibly well paced.
Okay.
It moves seamlessly between these moments of intense emotion and then quiet reflection.
Right.
It starts with this urgency as Ilsa arrives at Rick's office.
Oh yeah, she's desperate for his help.
Exactly, and then there's this back and forth as they grapple with their feelings in this impossible situation.
Right.
And then just when the tension reaches its peak, Victor arrives, adding another layer of complexity, forcing Rick to make a choice.
It's like a constant build and release of tension.
Exactly, keeping us hooked.
And that final moment, as Rick watches the plane disappear into the fog, it's just perfect.
It leaves us with this lingering sadness, but also maybe a glimmer of hope.
It's like the scene ends, but the emotions stay with you.
That's the mark of a truly great scene, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not just entertainment, it's an experience that stays with you.
So we've covered the emotion, the visuals, the music, the pacing. Yeah. But what about the cultural impact of this scene?
Oh, yes. The scene has become so much more than just a moment in a film.
I mean, here's looking at you, kid, is practically a universal saying now.
It is. It's been quoted, parodied, referenced countless times.
It's like shorthand for a certain kind of bittersweet farewell.
Exactly. Acknowledging love and loss in a single phrase.
And it's not just the words, it's the image, too.
Right.
Rick and Ilsa on that foggy runway.
With the plane in the background.
It instantly evokes so much.
It's become a visual shorthand.
Yeah, for sacrifice and the bittersweet nature of goodbye.
And that kind of cultural penetration is rare, you know? It speaks to the power of this scene.
Its ability to tap into something universal.
Exactly.
But why this scene?
That's a good question.
Out of all the great scenes, why has this one achieved such iconic status?
Well, I think it boils down to a few key factors. First, it's incredibly well crafted, from the writing to the acting to the technical elements.
Right.
It's just a perfect storm of cinematic brilliance.
Yeah, and it's not just technically good.
Yeah.
It's emotionally resonant, too.
Absolutely.
It deals with those timeless and universal themes.
Yes. Love, loss, sacrifice, hope.
And it presents them in a way that's relatable, but also aspirational.
Right.
We see these characters struggling with real human emotions.
We're making difficult choices.
Finding a way to move forward even when it hurts.
Exactly.
And that wartime setting just adds another layer to it all.
Absolutely. It raises the stakes.
Yeah.
Makes their choices even more meaningful.
It's like the war becomes this metaphor for their own internal battles.
It's very powerful.
And then you have the star power of Bogart and Bergman.
Oh, yes.
They bring so much charisma and depth to their roles.
They're iconic.
Yeah. And their performances in this scene, they've just become etched in our cultural memory.
Absolutely.
And let's not forget nostalgia.
And nostalgia.
Casablanca, it's a classic film.
Right.
And this scene in particular, it's taken on this almost mythical quality.
Yeah.
It represents a simpler time, you know? A time of grand romance and heroic sacrifice.
And that nostalgia definitely contributes to its enduring popularity.
It's like an escape into this world of classic Hollywood glamour.
Exactly.
So it's a combination of things, isn't it?
It is.
Brilliant filmmaking.
Yeah.
Universal themes, those iconic performances.
And historical context.
And a touch of nostalgia.
All coming together.
Yeah, to make this one of the most celebrated moments in film history.
It's a scene that has it all.
All right, well, we've covered a lot of ground here.
We have.
From the airplane to the impact of, here's looking at you, kid.
Yeah, a lot to unpack.
But there's still so much more to discuss.
Oh, absolutely. We've only just scratched the surface.
So we'll dive even deeper into all of this in the next part of our deep dive.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, we're just getting started.
There's so much more to explore. Welcome back. We were just talking about how that farewell scene has become such a cultural touchstone, you know, inspiring all those references and parodies.
It's interesting, though, because it's often held up as this, like, epitome of romantic love. But there's also a lot of sadness and sacrifice there.
Right.
It's not your typical happy ending.
No, it's not a fairy tale ending.
So what makes it so compelling, then?
Well, I think it's that it's not just a love story. It's also a story about letting go.
Okay.
About choosing something bigger than yourself.
So let's dig into that a bit more, then.
Okay.
The nuances of Rick and Ilsa's relationship.
Right, because it's complicated.
Yeah, they have this deep connection.
Absolutely. It's set against this backdrop of war, you know, chaos, uncertainty.
Right. They meet in Paris right before the Nazi occupation.
Yeah, a time of innocence.
A fleeting joy.
Exactly, a brief moment of happiness before the world falls apart.
It's like their romance is a product of that specific time.
Right.
That place.
And that makes it even more poignant, I think.
Yeah, you know, it's like
a love born out of intense circumstances.
Right, and then interrupted by forces beyond their control.
Exactly.
And then boom, they're reunited in Casablanca.
Yeah, but there's a twist.
Oh, yeah.
Ilsa is married
to Victor Laszlo,
a Czech resistance leader. Talk about adding fuel to the fire.
Oh, yeah, that love triangle just throws everything into chaos.
It really does.
So Ilsa is torn between Rick and her loyalty to her husband.
Absolutely.
And Victor, you know, he's a pretty admirable guy.
He's fighting for freedom.
Putting his life on the line.
A true hero.
So it makes Ilsa's choice even more difficult.
It's not just about two men.
Right.
It's about two different paths.
Yeah, two different ways of life.
You know?
So on one hand, you've got Rick,
right,
representing that romantic ideal.
charming, worldly, a bit cynical,
Jaded.
and then Victor,
Duty sacrificed the fight for a better world.
noble, idealistic.
Yeah.
So Ilsa choosing Victor, it's not just about romantic love.
No, it's about aligning herself with a greater cause.
And that decision is reflected in the visuals, too.
Oh, how so?
Remember that airplane?
Yeah.
It's not just a background detail.
Right.
It represents escape freedom.
A future that Rick is letting go of.
It's a visual metaphor.
Right. Rick's choosing to stay behind.
Trapped by his past.
And Ilsa's choosing to fly away.
To a future that's uncertain.
Yeah.
But hopeful. But aligned with her values.
But even though it's bittersweet,
Yes, I'm ready.
there's hope in Rick's sacrifice, isn't there?
Absolutely.
He's doing the right thing.
Even though it breaks his heart.
He's putting Ilsa's happiness first,
And the fight for freedom.
above his own desires.
It's true selflessness.
It's like he's finally letting go of that cynicism,
Right.
embracing something bigger.
He becomes the hero he was always meant to be.
And that transformation is what makes it so powerful.
Right.
It's not just a love story, it's about redemption.
Self-discovery.
Okay, so we've talked about the love triangle, the war, the choices, but let's go back to that line.
Which one?
Here's looking at you, kid. What do you think it really means?
Well, on the surface, it's a toast. You know?
Right.
A goodbye.
But there's so much more to it.
Layers of subtext.
Unspoken emotion.
I think there's a melancholy there.
Yeah, like an acknowledgement that their paths are diverging.
That this might be the last time they see each other.
It's more than just goodbye.
It's acknowledging a love that can't be.
Fully realized.
Yes.
It's about cherishing those memories while accepting their reality.
And it's repeated throughout the film, too.
Oh, yeah.
With slightly different meanings each time.
It evolves with their relationship.
Exact.
So in the beginning, it's playful, flirty.
Right.
But by the end,
It's heavy with sadness.
the phrase itself becomes this microcosm of their love story,
Starting with hope.
ending with bittersweet resignation.
And that's why it's so memorable.
It's both specific to them.
But universal in its emotion.
And speaking of enduring power,
Yes.
why has this scene resonated with audiences for so long?
Well, it taps into those universal themes we talked about.
Love, loss, sacrifice.
Everyone can relate to those.
Yeah, regardless of your background.
And it's both beautiful and heartbreaking.
The visuals, the dialogue, the performances.
Still working together.
And let's not forget the historical context.
Casablanca was made during World War II,
A time of great upheaval.
and it offered a sense of hope,
Escape?
that love and courage can still exist in dark times.
And that message is still relevant today.
Absolutely.
We still face challenges in our lives.
I do.
This scene reminds us that even in the face of adversity,
There's strength.
yeah, strength in love, in sacrifice, in fighting for something bigger than ourselves.
It's a timeless and timely message.
Okay, so we've talked about Rick and Ilsa, the war, the dialogue,
The cultural impact.
but there's one more thing I want to touch on.
What's that?
Fate.
Ah, yes, fate.
Because Casablanca is really a film about fate, chance. You know,
The unpredictable nature of life.
right from the moment they meet in Paris to that reunion in Casablanca.
It feels like their lives are guided by something bigger.
Some invisible hand.
And that sense of fate is so strong in the farewell scene,
It's like the universe is conspiring to bring them together one last time.
only to tear them apart again.
And that line, you know, of all the gin joints and all the towns and all the world, she walks into mine.
Such a classic line.
It speaks to the improbability of it all.
The power of fate.
And that just adds to the emotional weight of it all.
It does.
It's like we're watching these star-crossed lovers, you know,
Destined to be together but kept apart.
by fate.
And the way the scene is filmed, too.
Oh yeah, like how
Fog rolls in,
obscuring the plains.
symbolizing
It's
uncertainty.
like fate is clouding our vision.
It's a powerful visual metaphor.
Yeah, the fog represents the unknown,
The things we can't control.
the things that shape our destinies.
And that resonates with everyone, right?
Oh yeah, we all had those moments
Where fate takes over.
where chance encounters change everything.
And this scene captures that feeling perfectly.
It reminds us that even the best laid plans,
Can be upended.
yeah, by the unpredictable nature of life.
That's what makes it so relatable, so moving.
Okay, so we've talked about the love story, the war, the dialogue, the impact of fate.
Quite.
But what about the black and white aesthetic? Does that add to the power of the scene?
Absolutely. I think the black and white is crucial here.
How so?
Well, by stripping away the distraction of color, it forces us to focus on the characters' faces
Yeah, their
and
expression.
the contrast of light and shadow.
It simplifies the visual landscape.
Exactly, so we connect with the raw emotion.
And it also makes it feel timeless, doesn't it?
Yes, both classic and contemporary.
It's like we're watching history unfold.
But the emotions are still fresh.
And the lack of color actually makes it more romantic.
It does.
It evokes a sense of nostalgia.
You know,
old Hollywood glamour.
And I've also read that it was partly a practical decision back then.
Oh, yeah. Limitations of technology.
But it turned into a stylistic strength.
It added depth and texture.
So they turned a constraint into an opportunity.
Exactly.
And created this visually stunning and emotionally powerful scene.
It's a testament to the filmmaker's creativity. Okay, so the black and white enhances the romanticism, the timelessness, the emotion.
But what about the setting itself?
Oh yeah, Casablanca, Morocco during World War II.
It's more than just a backdrop.
Right.
It's a character in the story.
Casablanca becomes this microcosm of the world at war.
It does.
It's this melting pot of cultures, ideologies.
Refugees, Nazi opportunists.
Resistance fighters.
All with their own hopes and dreams.
And then in the middle of it all, you have Rick's Cafe.
American.
This neutral ground.
Where everyone comes together.
Forgetting their troubles.
Music drinks the illusion of normalcy.
An oasis in a world gone mad.
And that contrast just adds to the drama of the scene.
Yes. When Rick and Ilsa are saying goodbye.
You can feel the weight of the war.
Pressing in on them.
Reminding them that their personal struggles are happening against this backdrop of global conflict.
It adds urgency.
Makes their choices feel even more significant.
The setting is a character.
Shaping everything.
Exactly. And that's what makes Casablanca so rich and layered. So we've talked about the love story, the war, the dialogue, the impact of fate, the setting.
All these different elements.
What do you think makes this farewell scene stand out as one of the best?
It's hard to say exactly, but it's a combination of brilliant writing,
direction,
Bogart and Bergman.
The scene is visually stunning,
emotionally resonant,
emphatically rich.
It's about love, loss, sacrifice, hope.
It stays with you.
It really is a perfectly crafted emotional punch to the gut.
And it's all done in just a few minutes.
Yeah.
Incredible.
The power of storytelling.
All right, so we've covered a lot here.
A lot of ground.
From the symbolism to the cultural impact.
But there's always more to say.
Yeah, let's give our listeners a moment to process.
Take it all in.
Before we wrap things up in the final part of our deep dive.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back. You know, it's amazing how one scene can spark so much discussion.
It really is, and Casablanca is a perfect example.
We've talked about the emotion, the visuals, the history.
With even the black and white.
But I think there's one more layer to peel back.
Oh, what's that?
Rick's sacrifice.
Interesting.
Was it truly selfless?
Well, on the surface, it seems like it.
Right. He lets Ilsa go for her own good and for the greater cause.
But there's a complexity to his motivation.
Oh, how so?
Remember, Rick starts the film as a cynic.
Oh, yeah. Totally disillusioned with love and the world.
I stick my neck out for nobody.
Right. That's his motto.
So when he sends Ilsa away with Victor, is it purely out of love for her?
I see what you're saying.
Or is it also about him reclaiming his own agency?
Okay, so you're saying his sacrifice is also a way of breaking free from his cynicism.
Exactly. Finding a sense of purpose again.
So it's not a simple black and white decision.
Not at all.
It's both selfless and self-serving.
Right, and that makes his character even more interesting.
Yeah, he's not a perfect hero.
He's flawed.
Struggling with these difficult choices.
And finding redemption in unexpected ways.
And that's why this scene resonates with us.
It's not a fairy tale.
It's about the messiness of love and sacrifice.
Searching for meaning in a world that's gone mad.
And it leaves us with some big questions.
Like, what does it mean to truly love someone?
When is sacrifice necessary?
When is it self-defeating?
Can you find balance between personal happiness and the greater good?
Those are tough questions.
Casablanca doesn't give us easy answers.
No, it makes us think.
And that's what makes it so thought-provoking and timeless.
It's a film that keeps on giving.
Yeah. Every time you watch it, you find something new.
And connect with it in different ways.
So to our listeners, watch this scene again.
Pay attention to the nuances we've talked about.
The details, the emotions, the layers of meaning.
And ask yourself, what does "here's looking at you, kid" mean to you?
Because the most powerful interpretations are the ones we create ourselves.
Drawing on our own experiences.
We hope you enjoyed this deep dive
into one of cinema's most iconic scenes.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep diving deep into the stories that shape us.
She went, but she knew you were lying.
Anyway, thanks for helping me out.
I suppose you know this isn't going to be very pleasant for either of us, especially for you. I'll have to arrest you, of course.
As soon as the plane goes.